Pasha Pyro, YN7. Thank you for tuning. The replay. Big board pep for my peeps. Let's get to this. So, I meet a lot of people. And I was talking to this woman. And she was telling a story about why she got into stocks. Or not necessarily why she got into it, but why she was really grateful that she did. And this represents maybe some of you. You have a child, a son or a daughter with special needs, and you realize that what she was saying is that she realized that once she freed herself from the employment situation and found that she could make her own schedule and create and build wealth using the stock market, it was very empowering to her because there would have been no other way really for her to handle or be available to support her son or daughter in a fashion that was needed any other way than having access to the stock market and being able to make a living off of it. So that could be you. It could be you and you not even know it. It could be you and you don't need to have a special needs child. Look at what you just experienced in 2020. What if you were able to simply provide for yourself from home using just the market? Everybody should set goals and have a plan. And once you do that, it breaks down to daily goals and a daily plan. So now let's imagine you got your financial situation under control because let's say this is working for you after a while. You know, I was at a venue, at an event, and I was able to pick up this book. To be honest with you, I didn't even know what book I was picking up. I was just there to support. Now, what I mean by that, because see, remember you're watching YN7. It's always the perfect day. This is energy. You see what I mean? So I was there and I was there to support. So what people need to understand is people are doing things for people. People are doing things to the best of their ability to make tomorrow better. Everybody got something they working on, something they could do better, etc., whatever. So to me, it didn't really matter what the book was about. I was there to support the venue owner because by the venue succeeding in hosting the event, it puts them in position to host other events. And by the person of interest seeing a successful event, they are apt to come back. And then by supporting the person of interest, you support their endeavors. Now this book, I don't know, I didn't find out later to how much it was because I just gave him a card. So it was $50 there, $75 online. when I look through the book later, because it's titled Black Parent Advocate, The Art of War for Dealing with America's Public and Charter Schools, right? You got a kid in school? You got a kid in school somewhere? You got a son or daughter in school somewhere? You know what I'm saying? Then you need to get this book. Because when I look through the book, and we're going to get to the stocks, I got some good plays. I got one that fell off the cliff on me today. And I'm going to tell you what you need to look out for next week. So just give me a second here, because this stuff is really important because it's all connected. When I look through this book, it's not a book. And when I started reading, like, the table of contents alone, it reminded me of what I heard someone say in the crowd. It was like, well, how much was the book? And they were like, $50. And they were like, oh, and whatever, right? So, and that may have been, you can't speak for where that person's at or what they can or can't do at that time. So, but what it was reminding me of is just like my holistic health book I got over there, right? I don't know. I think I spent $20 on that or something, right? What you're able to do with what's inside that book, even if not for yourself, for your family members, if you still talk to them, for your neighbors, for your community, for the person you're going to walk past at work that's going to be in tears and not realize that you have the answer once they start telling you what their problem is today. You know how many people I've been able to say, hey, you know what? I don't know it off the top of my head, but let me get to my book and I can research that, because the benefit for me is the more I help people with their situations, the exercise helps me commit it to memory. And then eventually a few times later, I can just not only do I understand it, but I can tell the person right then and there instead of having to go back to the book, because I've exercised it. Okay. So the stuff in this book is it's more like an encyclopedia of things you need to know or may need to know, and maybe not even know you could know or know to know, of dealing with public and charter schools. So if you had not have the luxury of being able to personally acquire this in person, and shout out to Dr. Umar, he actually autographed it and everything, but if you can get it online. Okay, go ahead and grab that book if you have a son or daughter, or a family member that's got a son or daughter, or a community around you that's got sons and daughters, or if you're part of a state that's got sons and daughters, or if you live in a country that's got sons and daughters in a public or charter school system. Go ahead and grab that book, because what's inside of there is going to help you help somebody one day, and that alone will be worth the $50 or the $75. All right, let's get into today's plays. Okay, we got some good ones. I got one that went south on me, but it's okay because it was brand new, and that's part of the learning process, right? So what I want to run up on is RMG first. All right, so RMG, the P.E.P closed at $21.95 today, but it hit a high at $22.18, right? So we made it back to that same resistance. You see the color. Like, I haven't changed the. I've expanded the boxes so they move over to the day, but these are the same, boxes. If you go back and watch the other videos, dealing with RMG. So we right back at that resistance line today. Boom, hit it 1, 2, almost hit it 3. Then it was going down, and then it did a nice little Friday run up, which is great. That's a great sign going into Monday, okay, for me anyway. So I like that because I'm gonna show you something at the end too of why next week is gonna be really interesting potentially, and possibly why the whole stock market has been so crazy and volatile, as some would say, for the last couple months, right? If not longer. Which is good, bad, and there's a good side at the end because you get to look forward to a settling of things going into 2021. All right, so we're right back at that resistance line we found on the 12th. Now, you see, I was calling for us to hit $25 before we took that first plunge and went back into the red from the yellow, which is okay because it's a good opportunity. You know, you sell off high and then you wait for it to find a bottom somewhere, which we did right there around the 16th and the 15th and the 14th was good times to buy in, right? But I'm a fan of waiting to see it. I used to do stuff like that in the beginning, like buy in because it's lower and I think it's going to go up. But when you start doing the risk assessments, you learn that you don't know if it's going to go back up or not. So if you start buying in on the way down, like you could just be out of money at the end of the day. So it's good to wait till, like, when I saw the 16th and I saw the spike and then I saw it start to turn, that's a good point to re-enter. All right, for me. So I re-entered because the worst case scenario was it was going to be a flat day. All right, and you set your profit losses, etc., and you can move on. So we climbed from roughly $18 to a high of 22 in 2 days. All right, so that could have got you, if you timed it right, around $4 a share. Okay, so even with this, we're still on at this new angle, at this new trajectory. We're still on course to meet $25 by EOM, which is end of month. And the only complication to that is that the vote is on the 28th. Now I can't tell you how I voted, but that's public knowledge. The vote is, well, I don't know if I can or can't, but I won't. I ain't gonna tell you how I voted on it. So, the meeting will be the 28th. So next week, if there's gonna be a run up for RMG prior to that debut of news, it would be next week. And I'll get to the complication of next week in a moment. So this is a good look going into next week. It's already on its upward trend. This could be the beginning of the run, and then we'll have to wait and see what happens next week. Whether you want to add to your position, keep your position, what have you. And then, of course, on the following Monday, when the announcement is made, you know how everything's been going with these mergers lately. So we'll have, buckle your seatbelts. It's going to be interesting over the next 10 days. Okay, so the next one is there. Now, this one, I really enjoy this stuff. I hope you guys are having success. Like, if you've been watching these videos, I'm not saying you have to trust me, but because this is entertainment purposes only, and I owe nobody but myself anything. So what you do is up to you, but I would prefer that you do your own research and verify the things I'm saying and or go deeper. Anyway, back from the 14th, I didn't change the notes, but I did update the card because I really wanted to keep this detail intact here, because you can see there, looking at the card, how I just be excited when I see stuff like this, and the more I duplicate it, the better I feel. So the P.E.P closed at 116, right? Because basically it was back to the same position. So right now, this was from the 14th. It wanted to get back to the 131. So on the 14th, we were sitting at like 114. So I actually got back into it some more I got back into it on the 11th. I'll review the notes from the 14th and then I'll add on to it. So and it had its volatility of 9.5%. We'll go over that in a second here. P.E.P was in and out. On December 4th, it dropped from 152 to 150. So I saw that as that slippage that came right before the fall, right? So we got out, and it has a history of doing that. I got back in on the 11th at 119, and then it kept going down a little bit, but it was very slow, little trickle. And on the 14th, it was at like 114, and I think I even got some more when I felt like the bottom was at the bottom around 114, 115, but the bottom was 112. And then it started to come back up, right? And then it had a little slip. And then we hit this today. So today it shot up 24%. You see, that was the anticipation. So we in heavy by the time it hit we're at like 114. We're in it big because we know what's gonna happen. And then we just don't know when. Or we think we have a good feeling of what's going to happen, right? For all the critics out there. So it goes to 147, right? And then it starts to decline. So that's your window of time to decide if you want to lock in profits, because it declined to 137, right? So you had a 10 cent. This doesn't move. Well, I can't say that because it does have some spikes, but it's not like some of the other stocks where 5 or 10 cents is just like a blur. You know what I mean? Like this may hold a penny for a couple minutes. You know what I mean? So if you're sitting there with it, you got time. If not, you set your stop loss percentage, and you're all good. But anyway, it dropped down to 137. So if you're attentive to it, meaning like you have time right there and you're with it, it actually went back up from the 137 back to 145, and then it finally came to rest at 140 for the day. But if you look at that, right, these are the same lines I had. So it came back to the line of resistance, and it fell. Then it broke through the line of resistance, went through the top blue line, right? Then came back down to the bottom little yellow strip I got there, to the bottom of that line, and then went back up to the top blue line. So we're closing at 140. So, right around that first peak, right around 140-ish, 138, 139, 140, I offed like 80% of my position because I'm only expecting it to get to 150, 152, and you never know when the floor is going to come out. So I'm out a little early than that. You know what I mean? And then when it bounced, I bought a little bit back in. So when it started, hit the peak again and came back down, you get back out. And as it fell, I held a position, I reduced it, and then I added a little more because it's Friday and you want to go. I don't know how y'all play y'all weekends, and they're all different. Every weekend, every Friday has its own little feel to it, but there's like a sell-off. People be trying to get profits for the week, right? So you anticipate that, and that's why it's good to know how your stock performs, right? Because you can anticipate what you need to do, or what you need to look for, what numbers you need to look at based on your familiarity with the history of the stock. And of course, there's some unknown aspects of it. We have to accept the unknown part. The animal, that's just the part of the beast. So what my play is with this in particular is I'm looking, because I don't know if it's going to continue to go up, and I don't know if it's going to go down. And at any given moment, it could blow up because of the tech that I showed you in the other videos. So I wanted to hold a small position in there. I added to it because I just wanted to see where the floor was going to be at Friday. So I got back in right before close, 30 minutes or so, and followed it up to the close of the day, added some position once I found out where the floor was going to be. Because what I'm learning is this, and tell me how you feel in the comments. The beginning of the day after opening is like the most volatile, right? Everything's going crazy. You got people selling. You got the after hours and pre-hours, man. that just messes up so much stuff. So you got all this stuff going on, and what I've learned is that when I do my research overnight, I may want to buy in. I may want to have a position in the next day, right? At the opening. Like, but the problem with the challenge with that is you don't know what it's going to do first thing in the AM. So if it spikes first thing in the AM, and I'm not talking about go up like 50%, but if it goes up 5%, 10%, and then by the time your bid gets entered, you're up here, right? And this is something for you to consider if you're a beginner, or if you're wondering, if you're intermediate and you're just wondering why, if you ever thought about this before. But so your bid's up here, and then the stock drops because people are, that's what happens in the first part of the day a lot. And then it comes back and does its thing for the rest of the day. If you get a high bid, even though it did what you thought it was going to do, you may still be underneath your original bid, which technically means that even though the stock performed how you expected it to, you're at a loss or a break even or not as high of a gain because of where you entered from buying into, right? So to curb that, what I'm doing now is holding very small positions on what I want from the day before and carrying it over. Like like I said, with this one in particular, I reduced it to, I sold off 80%. Then I sold off like another 10%. I added, like 20%. So I was sitting at 30%, let's say, what I had. Then caught some more gains. Then I sold off like 15 of that percent. Then I might have added 10 more percent. You know what I mean? So now I'm going to say I'm at 20%. And the benefit for that is I can set a stop limit, a trail stop. And if it spikes the next day and then does a crazy drop, well, I'll get out up here somewhere, right? Versus buying into it, saying you want the whole 20% of, let's say, a position, and it spikes and then you're underwater for the rest of the day. That way, in my mind, what I'm thinking, and I'm learning as I go along. Like I said, this is my log. You know what I'm saying? So you guys are hearing my thoughts sometimes only moments, days after I've had them. So what I'm thinking is that way, if it spikes, right, no matter what it does after that, you still have the opportunity to play the rest of the day based off your plan without taking a huge L, possibly, because you bought in high off a spike at the beginning of the day because you wanted to buy in early. You know what I'm saying? And I'm saying it like that, not from the day trader standpoint of mine. I know that's where you guys know I'm trying to get to full, permanently, because what better way would it be? You know what I mean? To if you could do this all day and not have to do nothing else. And sometimes it only takes you a couple hours. Sometimes it takes you 10 minutes, depending on what your goal is, and have the rest of your day to be free and deal with your sons or daughters, right? Or your business or brand, or maybe you got a creative project or whatever it is you want to do. So here's what I'm getting at. This is more so, I think, really helpful, especially on the days and people that have to go to work. Right? Because you're not able to babysit it like on your day off. And that's one of the things why I say practice what you want in life, because I'm getting to see what I'm capable of and what the benefits are of being able to sit here and do this, even though you may only spend 3 hours there doing it and then start locking out profits, or you may spend 10 minutes doing it and have the same profit some days. You know what I mean? So you're seeing the benefits of what you can and can't do and what the value is when you're here full time, and then you're learning how to translate that the best you can for the days you got to work. And that's important because it'll enable you to bridge the gap from where you're at now in life to being able to successfully build and grow an account right? To the point where you have enough where you can now live off of and afford to keep playing. You see what I'm saying? So think about that. I know that was a lot, but that's what you showed up for. You don't just want to see me talking about what I did. You want to learn stuff too. So let's get it. Think about that. See how you can fit that in your life as a trial and start practicing. Now, here's the new one that I just gave y'all yesterday, right? And this is what I'll be talking about. You got to be okay with taking time to get to know what's going on. So these notes was from yesterday. It closed the day before today at 11:55, almost doubled since earnings. Everything's great, and you know what? Everything is still great. Now, I was in this already yesterday, so I got a good little ride up yesterday on the escalator. So when it came out today and it was still climbing, even though it was slow, everything looks good. Cool. I remember it was like 1160, 1170, and it's a new stock, so I didn't really know it that well yet. For me, I mean, it's new to me. So I had a set limit on there for like 1135 at the time, 1140, and I had that set for like majority of the shares. Like, okay, cool, because this was again one of the ones that I wanted to not have a whole bunch of, but to have a small percentage going into Monday. So, which is always a crazy thing over the weekend. So I remember I had all my stuff set, you know, I was up like 550 for the day, chilling, and you set at that point in time it was like 12:30. So I set all my settings, right? And I was ready to go take a nap, but you know, I went and did some other stuff, got into the book a little bit, all that good stuff. And then, you know, you start to hear, because I didn't know how Friday was going to play out. Some Fridays things go up, some Fridays things tank, some things stay the same, or it's a mixture, right? So you get all your settings set up for how you want to play the rest of the day, and now it's like set it and forget it, right? So you hear all the ding, 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 ding over the next couple hours, and you know things are being sold because they crossed your line and stuff like that, right? So you're good because you're at, let's say I'm at 550, so I know based on my setting, you know, there's certain things I want to keep, and they have like their bottom limits. So worst case scenario, you're probably gonna still be in the $400 to $500 range if everything goes to hell, right? Because you're gonna pull out at certain limits. So you're good for the day because you have your goal. You know, you already maxed it. You know what you need to do to stay within that goal, but still accomplish your other plan of what you want to do for next week. That's why all this research is important. That's why it's part of the reason why I'm single, because I haven't met a chick that wants to be on this type of stuff with, you know what I mean? They just, I don't know. Anyway, so I'd rather put my time in here and get free where I got every day to myself than to be able to say, you know, I got these 5 chicks that I've been fooling with for the last year that we ain't done nothing, really. When you think about it, we ain't built nothing. We done a lot of stuff, but ain't built nothing. So, you know what I mean? I don't know. To each his own. But here we go. So then it falls off the cliff, and it wasn't that my tail stop didn't work this time. That was fine. I had like I said, I had it set for like 40, so I only lost like 40 cents a share on that. Well, I didn't really lose anything. I gave back 40 cents a share. And then the stuff that I had remaining holding over for Monday, it just kept falling. And I mean, this whole dive right here is only about $1, so it's not really that tragic. But it's $1 a share. So I think I lost, like, I gave back about another $35, $40 from the aftermath of that, and then it got under control and it kind of settled down for the close. So everything's good. You still hit your goal, $400 to $500 a day if that's what you were after, and you spent really 3 hours making sure everything was in position, and then you set your settings, and you can walk away and have the rest of your day from there. Even with this craziness going on with this one, but on the good side, this is great because now it's even cheaper. And it's still actually in my channel that I have there. You know, I don't really mind the little little plug outs there at the side, or even it might even bulge out a little bit more. But as long as it keeps the same trajectory, that's great, right? Because we'll still be on our way to seeing, $16. And it may just be a day or two delayed, but this is still looking good because you buy in cheap Monday and it goes back to doing what it was supposed to be doing, and you keep on riding until next Friday. Okay. So volatility is important because this right here. So volatility is a statistical measure of dispersion of returns for a given security or market index. In most cases, the higher the volatility, the riskier the security. Now, volatility is often measured as either the standard deviation or variance between returns from that same security or market index. Now, in the securities market, volatility is often associated with big swings in either direction. For example, when the stock market rises and falls more than 1% over a sustained period of time, it is called a volatile market. And assets volatility is a key factor when pricing options contracts. Now, I haven't got into options yet, but basically, your volatility rating or measurement is going to tell you how much this swings. And that could be bad if you want to get in today and just hold it for 5 years, because it may wind up being exactly where you got in at 5 years from now. However, if you're playing the roller coaster ride, whether you're riding the long or you're taking the shorts, then it's probably going to be a good measure for you to determine if it's something you want to play with, because you take advantage of them swings. You know what I mean? So the key takeaways is volatility represents how large an asset's prices swing around the mean price. It is a statistical measure of its dispersion of returns. There are several ways to measure the volatility. It's this crazy ass equation, and then like 10 steps, and then do this, and then that. It's got like a whole SOP, and it's a lot. But basically, if you just look at it as the higher the volatility, the more it's gonna do this, like a heartbeat up and down. The less, the more it's gonna be kind of stable, or you know what I mean. So anyway, look into volatility on your own, get some more information. Now, here's why I want you guys to really pay attention next week, okay? Because now that we got the understanding of volatility, write that in your log books, put that in your notes. Make sure you got that going forward. Start to practice your executions based on what you feel like the volatility represents to you. All right. Now, next week, what we have to realize is that a lot of the reason to me that the market has been so crazy is because of, not only because of course it's because of the pandemic, right? But let me tell you how this is in a different way. This is in a situation where the government basically said, hey, look, we are waiving the 10% penalty for early withdrawal from, right, withdrawing your funds from your 401ks and stuff. So now think about what's going on right now, right? You got a lot of people that are in distressed situations, no longer working, all kinds of stuff, right? Behind on rents and mortgages. And, that's why we're looking at ASPS, for example, because we know when the mortgages get released for foreclosure, they're going to blow up. We talked about that in the other videos. So we know that situation is real. So what you also got to know is going to be going on, or has been going on, is people have been withdrawing their 10%. I mean, they're from their 401k, because especially right now, they don't have to pay the extra 10% penalty. Now, the reason why next week is critical is because next Thursday, I think it is the deadline, because you have processing time, etc. like that. So you know how we got some last minute people out there. So all of the last minute people are going to now take their last minute rush and will pull from their 401ks whatever they need, whatever they want. And that's going to pull funds out of the market. And that's probably what's been going on, throwing off charts and throwing off situations across the market. And I think all the last minute people are going to rush to do it between Monday and Wednesday, and probably Thursday if that day actually counts and it's not just the final day. And that's going to maybe make next week even crazier too, which is why, especially when I was talking about the RMG vote being the 28th and this could be the run up, it's hard to say what next week is going to be because you got all these extra circumstances. And on top of that, it's end of year and people are pulling out for profit season anyway. Okay. So looking at the CARES Act, see what that's about. That's going to affect you next week a little bit, probably a little bit harder than it has in the last few weeks. Everybody's been wondering what's going on with December. This is probably a big part of it in the undertow. So I'm Pasha Pyro. Remember to check on and get familiar with volatility. It'll help you understand some things. You got to figure out how you play the game best for you. What's your strengths, what's your weaknesses, and set yourself a goal, set yourself a plan, and just adhere to the plan. Because, like when you get there, just know you got there and cut it. If I was doing this every day, I'd have just clipped it at the, and come in tomorrow and play again. But if you're at a job, you gotta tailor those days that you work around your job. You know what I'm saying? And just don't make excuses. Be okay with you're gonna pay a little bit to learn. It's gonna cost you some. Just making sure you're in a position where you get more profits than cost, and get ready for 2021 because at least after this CARES Act expires, we should see some more stability. Not to say that people won't just start pulling it out with the penalty anyway if they really need it. You know what I mean? But that's what's going on right now. I hope you learned something from this video. I hope you got into that dare opportunity when I told you that's 24% today you got. I'm proud of you. Pasha Pyro, YNet7. Thank you for tuning. The replay. Big board. Pep for my peeps.